I've always been a worrier. For as long as I can remember, I would always feel anxious and stressed and worried about things. I remember my first day of school in first and second grade, I'd be nervous to get on the bus because I was worried about things like tornado drills and fire drills while other kids were showing off their cool lunch boxes. And I remember things like even in seventh and eighth grade, my first public speaking thing, and being so nervous and sick that I faked strep throat so I wouldn't have to go to school and talk in front of the class. And all the way through high school and college of making myself physically sick for exams and clearing out 24 hours in advance to study material that I already knew just because I was so worried that I might not get that A. Because my whole life, I not only realized that I had things that I had to achieve, like straight A's and things like success that would be applauded, but I also knew that that fear was a good thing because that stress and anxiety would help me to get those things that I wanted. I would say the time that I realized that this was really impacting my life was when I was about 16 and went to get my hair cut over summer break, and the woman cutting my hair started to talk about my thinning hair, and realizing that, hey, there's no one in my family with male pattern baldness, and I'm stressing myself out so much that I'm waking up with clumps of hair falling out onto my pillow. And I was worrying myself so sick that I started to realize, hey, maybe this isn't just something that has run in my family. Maybe this worrying isn't just something to help me achieve my goals, but maybe this is something that's turning into something unhealthy and maybe even destructive. I'd say my biggest turning point and where I realized that I wanted to head for freedom was when I realized that God was not on the side of fear. When I realized that God had good plans for me, when I realized that I was not born again to a spirit of fear, but to a spirit of sonship. And as God's son, He desires good things for me, and He will protect me, and He will bring me to good places. And that anytime I'm feeling these feelings of stress and anxiety, that's not from God, and that's not Him telling me, hey, you need to be worried about this. That's something else coming in to steal away the joy that He wants to give me as a son. I started replacing that fear with freedom. When every time I would have a thought that would bring up a little bit of anxiety or stress, I would take that thought and I would say, does this match what God says about me? Does this match reality? And if it didn't, then I would say, then I'm not allowed to think about that thing. And it was hard at first. It was hard to say, wait, I need to be nervous about this. I need to be anxious, until eventually, after just closing them out so much day by day, it got a little bit easier to not think about those things, until finally I was realizing, hey, I just went a whole day without freaking out about something, without having one of these mini anxiety attacks. One of the biggest areas that I had stress and anxiety around was money, and that's one of the areas we've experienced the most freedom with. We've realized that when we give money away, that's not a bad thing. And when our savings account is getting low, that means we've been using it to bless people and to build into things that we're passionate about, and it's doing far greater work out of our checking account than it was doing in there. The biggest example I can give of me getting free of fear in my own life has to do with my job. And last year during the journey, there was a week on surrender. And I clearly heard, hey, surrender your job because it's not making you who you're meant to be. What's amazing to me is the very thing that I did of quitting my job that should have the most stress and the most anxiety and the most fear around was the most freeing thing I'd ever done. Because no longer was I going to go to a job that breeded fear in me, but I was going to step out in faith that I could lose my job, quit my job in the middle of this thing, in the middle of this recession, not knowing where God was going to put me, but that I could know there was freedom around that. Freedom in my life right now looks like no more 5 and 10-year plans, because those just give me things to worry about. I know that God has a plan for me, and I know that He's going to provide for me no matter what. So I feel free to take more risks. And in fact, I've even found that the fear that was once in me has been replaced by faith, and faith that God will do things that I would have never imagined Him doing. A year ago, I was so scared and so stressed and nervous about even doing little things on that particular day. And now I'm in a place where I have no clue where God is taking me. I don't have a job, and I don't know where I'll be next week or next year, but I know I'm in a place of freedom, and there's nowhere I would rather be.